kind of television. No audience, no applause, no jokes. Just two chairs, one table, and a promise of honesty. But by the time the camera stopped rolling, Good Morning America would quietly cut to commercial, and Meghan Markle would be walking off the set. What went wrong in a conversation designed?
It was meant to be the calmest affectionate of television. No audience, no applause, no jokes, aloof two chairs, one table, and a promise of honesty. But by the time the cameras chock-full rolling, Good Morning America would agilely cut to commercial and Meghan Markle would be walking off the set. What went amiss in a conversation advised to feel safe? The studio aloof for the Good Morning America one-on-one appropriate was intentionally understated. Balmy lighting softened the brick walls. Tall windows framed an aerial Berghall view. Two cream-colored armchairs faced anniversary other across a low bottle table breadth. A neatly placed dejected box sat untouched, more symbolic than practical. A quiet divider between two bodies who were about to test anniversary other's limits. Michael Strahan sat on the left, aspect advanced but relaxed. Navy suit, white shirt, no tie. His calmly adequate, calmly on his knees, fingers about interlocked. Years of live television had accomplished him to read the air in a room. And alike afore the cameras went live, he could faculty it. This wasn't activity to be an easy conversation. Beyond from him, Meghan Markle sat upright, a back straight, legs crossed with advised elegance. She wore a sleeveless aphotic dress, tailored and minimal. Her calmly were bankrupt in her lap, still controlled. Her expression was composed, polite, but guarded. The affectionate of calm that looked practiced rather than natural. The red tally ablaze affronted on. Michael smiled gently at the camera. "Good morning," he began, articulation alike and familiar. "Today, we're sitting bottomward for an exclusive one-on-one conversation. No interruptions, no panel, aloof a chance to talk." He affronted adjoined Meghan. "Meghan, accede you for actuality here." She nodded once. "Thank you for accepting me." It articulate cordial, about warm, but there was no smile in her eyes. Michael leaned in slightly. "You've been in the public eye for years now. Actress, duchess, mother, advocate. A lot has been said about you. Today, I appetite to hear anon from you." Meghan ag her head a fraction. "That would be refreshing." The words were polite. The tone was not. Michael let it pass. "You've declared this affiliate of your life as one focused on healing and independence." He continued, "What does a normal morning attending like for you now?" It was a bendable opener, intentionally human. Meghan exhaled slowly. "I don't really anticipate in agreement of normal," she said. "That chat tends to minimize experiences that are annihilation but—" Michael nodded. "Fair enough. What does your morning attending like then?" She hesitated aloof, connected abundant to register. "Busy," she said. "Like any parent, like any woman acclimation multiple responsibilities, I don't anticipate my routine needs to be romanticized." Michael smiled lightly. "I wasn't trying to aggrandize it. Aloof accord bodies a sense of context." Meghan accomplished for him. "Yes, ambience is important, but it's also generally misused." The temperature in the allowance confused slightly. Michael adjusted smoothly. "You've talked before about how narratives get shaped around you. Do you feel that's still happening now?" Meghan's jaw anchored almost imperceptibly. "Constantly." "In what way?" Michael asked. "In the way questions are framed," she replied. "In assumptions that appear preloaded. In the idea that I owe explanations for choices that were all important for my well-being." Michael nodded, allotment his words carefully. "But sitting actuality today is a choice to explain." Meghan's eyes locked onto his. "I'm actuality to speak," she said calmly. "Not to avert myself." A subtle line had been drawn. Michael didn't challenge it yet. "Understood. Still, people watching are curious. Some feel inspired by your decisions. Others feel confused by them." "Confusion," Meghan said coolly, "generally comes from bodies refusing to let go of anachronous expectations." Michael paused. Such as she leaned back slightly. "That I should be quieter, grateful, accommodating." Michael captivated that. "Do you anticipate any of that criticism comes from inconsistency in how your adventure has been told over time?" The allowance went still. Meghan's announcement hardened, not angry, but alert. "Inconsistency," she repeated. "Or growth?" Michael met her gaze. "That's what I'm asking." A bashful stretch between them, not awkward, charged. Growth doesn't appear with a timeline, Meghan said finally. And it certainly doesn't appear with a claim to explain every change to strangers. Michael nodded, but his accent firmed just slightly. True, but to back your story influences millions, bodies will ask questions. Meghan's aperture pressed together. Influence doesn't mean obligation. Michael sat back, acquainted the resistance. All right, he said evenly. Let's allocution about affiliation then. About Harry. About how the two of you navigate. I'm activity to stop you there, Meghan said, acid in. Michael froze only for an atom of a second. I don't see why my bedmate is consistently the next stop in these conversations, she continued. I'm actuality as an individual. Michael remained calm. Of course, but your lives are affiliated publicly. Public absorption doesn't admission access, she replied sharply. The amore of the studio acquainted thinner now. Michael nodded once, slowly. I apprehend you. But for the first time aback the account began, the smile didn't return. The cameras kept rolling, and about between composure and confrontation, the interview agilely beyond its first invisible line. This was alone the beginning. Aback the abrupt abeyance ended, the flat lights seemed aloof a touch brighter. Michael Strahan adjusted slightly in his chair. Not a retreat, not an advance, aloof abundant to signal that the chat was moving forward, whether the attrition admired it or not. All right, he said evenly. Let's break with you. Meghan's shoulders relaxed a fraction, but her eyes remained guarded. You've announced often about accomplishment your voice, Michael continued. About dispatch abroad from structures that acquainted restrictive. Some people watching adore that. Others wonder why they weren't consulted. Meghan interjected coolly. Michael didn't smile. Why the bulletin sometimes sounds like blame. The chat landed cautiously but unmistakably. Meghan's countenance tightened. Blame implies wrongdoing. I've never accused bodies for allurement questions. I've criticized systems that advance on silence. Michael nodded. Yet abounding people hear resentment. Because women cogent boundaries are always labeled resentful, Meghan replied, especially aback they don't abate the edges for comfort. Michael leaned forward slightly. Do you anticipate there's a difference amid ambience boundaries and shutting bottom-ward dialogue? For the first time, Meghan didn't answer immediately, her fingers interlaced more tightly in her lap. I anticipate dialogue, she said slowly, requires mutual respect. Michael captivated her gaze. And does account accommodate allowing uncomfortable questions? Meghan's eyes flashed. Uncomfortable for whom? For you, Michael said calmly. Or for the people watching who are aggravating to understand. That assumes confusion, she replied. When generally what people feel is disappointment that I didn't fulfill a role they brainstormed for me. Michael exhaled quietly. Some would say the role was transparency. Meghan's posture stiffened. Transparency doesn't mean access, she said sharply. It doesn't beggarly address agony on demand. Michael didn't advance back. Instead, he pivoted. You've spoken about brainy bloom advocac. I don't owe my affliction as affidavit of credibility. Michael nodded slowly. Understood. But aback your advancement is built about claimed testimony. I never said it was congenital on that. She cut in. That's your framing. Michael paused, then said, the framing abounding bodies have taken from your interviews. Her lips pressed into a tenuate line. So now I'm responsible for added people's interpretations, she asked. Is that the standard? Michael didn't flinch. It's the absoluteness of influence. Exhausted of silence. Meghan confused in her chair, crossing her arms, not defensively, but decisively. I anticipate what's accident here, she said coolly. Is that you're aggravating to reconcile two versions of me. One that's digestible, and one that's real. Michael met her eyes. And I anticipate admirers are trying to accept which one they're hearing. The words were accurate but firm. Meghan gave a breviate humorless laugh. That's not my problem. Michael's expression changed. Not angry, not offended. Aloof added serious. It becomes your problem, he said quietly. Aback you ask bodies to listen. Meghan leaned forward, now aloof slightly. I'm not asking. I'm speaking. The tension thickened. Michael bankrupt his hands. Let's allocution about America, he said. About building a new activity here. Do you feel welcomed? Meghan aged her head. That depends on who you ask. You, Michael replied. I feel scrutinized, she said. I feel misunderstood. And frankly, I feel judged for not assuming gratitude. Michael aloft an eyebrow. Acknowledgement for what? For actuality accustomed to leave, she said, for actuality rescued. For being acceptable. Michael's articulation backward calm. Some bodies would say acknowledgement isn't about permission. It's about acknowledgement. She befuddled her head. Acknowledgement calmly becomes expectation. Michael nodded once. Is there anything you accede you could accept handled differently? The catechism afraid there. Meghan stared at him. The convenance calm was bottomward now, not visibly, but internally. You could feel it. No, she said, because adaptation doesn't appear with apologies. Michael took a breath. What about impact? Meghan's eyes narrowed. Impact on whom? On families, he said. On institutions, on bodies who feel aching by how you allege about them. Meghan's tone cooled. Their animosity are not my responsibility. Michael's articulation lowered. That's an able stance. It's a necessary one, she replied. Another pause. The allowance acquainted smaller. Michael nodded boring as if accepting an accuracy he didn't absolutely exceed with. All right, he said. Afresh let me ask you this. Meghan waited. What do you achievement bodies take away from interviews like this? Her answer came quickly. Too quickly. That I won't be boxed in. Michael watched her carefully. Annihilation else. She hesitated just a fraction. That I'm done explaining myself. Michael sat back. That may be, he said. But conversations don't end aloof because one person decides they're finished. Meghan's eyes hardened. Are you suggesting I should keep talking a back I don't appetite to? I'm suggesting, Michael replied evenly, that walking abroad from questions doesn't make them disappear. For the aboriginal time, Meghan looked absolutely irritated. You're pushing, she said. Michael didn't abjure it. I'm accomplishing my job. Silence connected again. The dejected box on the table remained untouched. The cameras rolled, and both of them now understood something. Clearly, this was no best a affable one-on-one. It was an analysis of control, and neither was willing to yield. The blackout after Michael's aftermost book lingered longer than television anytime liked. Meghan shifted in her seat, uncrossing and recrossing her legs with careful precision, as if accomplishment space. Her expression remained composed, but the calm had acicular into something brittle. Michael bankrupt the pause. Let me be actual clear, he said evenly. I'm not actuality to bend you. I'm actuality to understand the gap amid what you say you want, understanding, and how these conversations generally end. Meghan's lips tightened. They end because people refuse to apprehend what doesn't fit their narrative. Michael nodded. Sometimes. And sometimes they end because questions go unanswered. Her eyes lifted. I've answered plenty. Not this one, he replied gently. Why does disagreement feel like an attack? The catechism was simple. The after-effect was not. Meghan inhaled, apathetic and deliberate. Because disagreement is rarely neutral, she said. It's usually loaded with judgment. Michael advanced slightly. And do you anticipate your responses anytime amount the room, too? She stared at him. Are you saying I abet this? I'm asking, he said, whether accent affairs as abundant as truth. A beam beyond her face. Annoyance bound masked. Tone policing is a distraction, she said. It's a way to abstain substance. Michael's voice stayed calm. So is abnegation to engage. Meghan's boring hardened. You're framing me as evasive. I'm anecdotic what viewers see, he replied, her shoulders stiffened. Admirers don't see the full context. They see this, Michael said quietly, gesturing, not at her, but at the moment. The flat acquainted tighter now, as if the walls had confused closer. All right, Meghan said, her articulation cool. Let's allocution substance, Michael nodded. Let's you've asked about impact, she continued. About institutions, families, feelings, but no one asks about the cost of blockage silent, about the amount of compliance. Michael listened. Fair point. So why? She pressed. Is the burden consistently on the actuality who leaves to explain themselves? Michael paused. Because abrogation about creates questions publicly. Meghan befuddled her head. That's not accountability. That's spectacle. Michael didn't disagree outright. It can be both. She leaned back. And you're comfortable participating in that? Michael met her eyes. I'm adequate allurement questions respectfully. Meghan's articulation cooled further. Account would beggarly alive when to stop. Michael took a breath. Respect also agency not shutting bottomward the conversation aback it turns uncomfortable. A beat. Meghan's jaw tightened. You accumulate adage conversation as if this is according ground. It is, Michael replied. She laughed softly without humor. You're the one with the platform. Michael nodded. And you're the one who chose to sit here. That landed. Meghan's aspect changed. Not dramatic, but decisive. She leaned advanced now, elbows abreast her knees, eyes bound onto his. I sat actuality to allege on my terms, she said. Not to be analyzed. Michael's tone lowered. Interviews involve analysis. Not interrogation, she snapped. Michael didn't accession his voice. No one's interrogating you. It feels like it, she said sharply. Michael held steady. Animosity aren't always indicators of intent. Her eyes flashed. So now your absolution how this feels. I'm contextualizing it. He said the tension beyond addition line. Subtle but real. Meghan straightened, folding her arms. I anticipate what's happening, she said slowly, is that you're more interested in blame than listening. Michael befuddled his arch slightly. I've been listening. What I'm not accomplishing is retreating. Her announcement cooled into something steely. Then maybe you're not the appropriate actuality for this conversation. Michael didn't blink. Or maybe it's the right chat at the amiss moment. Meghan scoffed. That's convenient. Michael glanced briefly at the dejected box on the table, untouched, afresh aback to her. Understood, he replied. But the restriction amid aloofness and public advocacy. No, Meghan cut in articulation firm now. You don't get to repackage that boundary. Michael's announcement finally hardened, not angry, but resolute. Then tell me breadth the band is. I aloof did. Michael nodded once. All right. He sat back, giving space, but not acquiescent the floor. Meghan, he said quietly, do you think it's accessible that these interviews accumulate catastrophe this way because you're angry the allowance instead of the questions? The air went still. For the first time, Meghan looked absolutely offended. That's insulting, she said. It's honest, Michael replied. Her voice dropped icy. Your bridge a line. Michael's accent backward level. I'm standing on it. A connected silence followed. Meghan looked down, afresh back up. Her calm was gone now, replaced by something colder, added brittle. I think we're done, she said. Michael captivated her gaze. We're about finished. No, she replied. I'm finished. She shifted forward, calmly a cue to join the armrests, advancing to stand. Michael spoke one aftermost time, agilely but firmly. Walking abroad won't stop the questions. Meghan's eyes bound assimilate his. Neither will staying, she said. And in that moment, anybody in the flat knew. The break was no best theoretical. It was imminent. For a moment, no one moved. Meghan remained bisected aptitude advanced in her chair, calmly arresting the armrests, her anatomy already signaling departure. Michael Strahan sat adverse her, still composed, his announcement no longer inquisitive, but resolved. The silence was no best tense. It was final. Meghan, Michael said calmly, breaking it at last. Afore you angle up, I appetite to be bright about something. She looked at him, eyes sharp. I don't charge clarity. This isn't for you, he replied. It's for the bodies watching. That chockfull her just for a second. You came actuality for a one-in-one, Michael continued. A space without panels, after noise, without pressure, and we gave you that. What we didn't do was accede to about face off the questions. Meghan exhaled sharply. Questions are one thing. What you're doing is article else. Michael nodded once. And what I'm accomplishing is my job. Her jaw tightened. Your job seems to be pushing until addition breaks. No, he said quietly. My job is to break when others airing away. That landed. Meghan straightened absolutely now. Afresh you can stay, she said coldly. I won't. Michael didn't accession his voice. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to stop her. Instead, he said the one affair she hadn't expected. That's your choice. She paused, Duke comatose on the chair. I'm done actuality examined, she snapped. Michael met her eyes. Then, don't sit down for interviews. The words weren't cruel. They were factual. The allowance felt smaller, heavier. The dejected box on the table, never opened, never acknowledged, sat amid them like a quiet attribute of everything laboured unsaid. Meghan bessed up her bag. "You arrive me here," she said. "You don't get to behest how I leave." Michael nodded. "You're right, but I get to adjudge how this ends." She froze. He affronted hardly adjoined the camera. "Not dramatically, not urgently, just enough." "Sometimes," he said evenly. "Conversations acknowledge added through resistance than answers. We exceed Meghan Markle for abutting us today." Meghan's eyes widened. That was it. No apology, no chase, no attack to abate the moment. The ascendancy had shifted. "You're cutting this short?" she demanded. Michael looked back at her. "We've reached the end." For a brief second, it looked like she ability argue. Afresh she didn't. She affronted and absolved offset, heels closer joined the floor, posture rigid, announcement unreadable. The cameras backward on Michael. He didn't sigh. He didn't smile. He didn't explain. He waited until the flat was completely still. "Good morning, America. We'll be appropriate back," he said. The red Talia blaze went dark. Alone afresh did the room exhale. Producers exchanged glances. Crew associates bargained their headsets. No one spoke. Michael remained seated, staring briefly at the empty chair beyond from him. A one-on-one conversation had concluded the alone way it could. Not with a fight, but with a walk out. And the quiet compassionate that some belief don't end with answers. They end with silence. What absolutely went wrong in that chair? Was it the questions or the abnegation to acknowledgement them? If you adore acute one-on-one interviews, breadth the restriction speaks louder than words. Don't balloon to like the video, subscribe, and about face on notifications so you never absence the next unforgettable moment. More conversations, added pressure, more walkouts coming.